Here it is, the Bible, big, massive book, right? And we have purposed and decided that we want to read through the entire thing, not just once, but to continue doing it for the rest of our life. So it makes me think of that saying, how do you eat an elephant, right? And the answer is, of course, one bite at a time. Now remember, these are exercises, they're drills. I'm not trying to tell you how you're supposed to do it. I'm just trying to give you a way to do it, put some options there in front of you just so you can tackle this project and not feel overwhelmed. Let's start working through the tools. First thing you're gonna need to have is a Bible, okay? Now you're gonna have to make a choice between either a nice leather-bound Bible or a disposable paperback Bible. Some people really don't like marking in their nice Bible. Other people really like having a record over the years and a nice Bible that they keep and it's tattered and marked. Your call, you just need to pick. Disposable Bible that you can mark up and keep your nice one nice, or develop the collector's edition that has all the notes of the last 20 years in it. You're also gonna have to pick the version of the scriptures that you wanna read. There's lots of different translations out there. Some are more literal and some are more concept-oriented. And so you're gonna wanna pick the one that you really enjoy reading so that you don't get too bogged down and hung up. Some you might like better for studying, but for right now, pick the one that you enjoy reading the most. The next tool you're gonna wanna have is a tracker, something to keep track of the progress as you're reading through the Bible. I'm gonna put a link to this particular one that I like in the description or in the blog. One thing that you wanna make sure too is that it has a nice little start date on there so you can remember when you started and you can try to aim to finish it by the end of the year. I'll share with you a little tip that I use. So as I read through, I just slash it when I finish the chapter. Sometimes I will read the same chapter twice or same book twice, and so when I go through it, I'll X it. So first slash, second read, X, third read, I'll circle it. And sometimes I'll read the same book multiple times in a year, and other times I'll just use the same sheet multiple years in a row, just as I've looked and seen how I've been through the scriptures once before. It just encourages me and reminds me that I can do it again. The last thing I want to point out is that as I'm going through, sometimes I will highlight one of the boxes, and that's just a signal to myself to say, hey, go back here and reread this, meditate on it, or pray through it, maybe study it. Or sometimes I'll have an idea for a message or something to share with others, and I'll just highlight that so I remember where it was, especially with the Psalms. Sometimes I'll see a particular Psalm that stands out, and I'll want to jump back to that one. All right, after the Bible and the check sheet, the next tool that I think you should really have are highlighters, and I highly recommend Crayola Twistables. They always stay sharp. You can even get them in erasable form, which if you're like me, you make a lot of mistakes and want to change things, that's great. The other thing is that they don't bleed through the pages. Now, by keeping a highlighter and a pencil in my hand as I read, it helps me to stay engaged. So what I'm doing is as I'm reading and something jumps out at me and I'm like, oh, that was really cool, I'll highlight it. Or if I have a thought, then I'll just write it in the margin with a little sharp pencil. Now, one of the ways I do it is I'll go through the entire Bible with a yellow highlighter. And then the second time through, I'll go through with an orange highlighter. And that just helps me see what is prominent in this area of my life, and then maybe as things change, other things will start to stand out to me. I'll put this one in here too. I hope it's not too confusing because it kind of overlaps with study and with reading, but every once in a while I will read through with a thematic color code, and so anytime I come across something with the kingdom, I might put blue, or the Holy Spirit, I might put purple, or authority and leadership, I'll use red. And what that helps me do is prepare for future studies, or it also just keeps me almost like a word find or a theme find. Keeps me looking and paying attention for certain things. Just ways to stay engaged as you're reading the Bible. The last tool I want to put in front of you is a Bible reading plan. There's a number of different ways to eat this elephant, right? There's let's see, this one here is a historical plan. It goes through the order in which the books were authored. This one here is a canonical plan. It goes straight through the Bible from Genesis to Revelation. This one here is a chronological plan. It goes through the scriptures in order that the events actually happen. Now I'm going to put some links for you to Blue Letter Bible in the description and in the blog. Basically, these things are already on blueletterbible.com. You can get them pre-made. But I also want to share with you how I like to go through the scriptures because I don't like to have two sheets, my Bible progress tracker and the reading plan, I just like to use the tracker. And all I do is I go through it section by section. I like to read New Testament, then the Old Testament, and the New Testament, and I know that's more than once through the Bible, but I like to start with the idea of begin with the end in mind, and then go from Old Testament to New Testament and just see how it progresses to the end. I'll typically follow it in order, so in the New Testament, I'll read the Gospels and Acts, then I'll go through all the epistles and save Revelation for last. And then same with the Old Testament, I'll read the law and then the history. Now, the only thing that I do a little bit funny is I'll take the writings, Psalms, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, and Song of Solomon, and I'll spread them out. So as I'm going through the Old Testament, I might read 4 chapters of the Old Testament, 1 Psalm. 4 chapters of the Old Testament, 1 chapter of Proverbs. And so I'll just slowly work through all the Psalms and the Proverbs that way. And that's because the Psalms is really hard to sit down and take them all in at once. They tend to be more digestible as you spread them out throughout your reading time. One last word about the pace is I try to read 5 chapters a day. And what happens when I do that is if I mess up, if I miss a day, 5 chapters a day is a pretty good pace. And if I miss some here or there, it leaves some fudge room where I'm not always trying to play catch up if I miss a little bit of time. All right, a quick word of encouragement. I've never ever been able to make it through keeping a steady pace the entire time. You're gonna have seasons in your life when you can read more and seasons in your life when you're not gonna be able to read as much. Don't beat yourself up about it. It's a marathon. When you have a gap, just pick up and start again. And take advantage of those seasons when you feel like you can just really read extra and read a lot. Sometimes I'll read 10 chapters in a day or more. And other times I might forget for a couple days. Again, the key is don't beat yourself up about it. Just keep going, just keep going, just keep going. That should be enough to get you started. Remember, there's just a few tools to help keep you engaged, to help keep you making progress, to help ensure that you're enjoying the process. But it's just eating that elephant one bite at a time, starting a habit, making it through the Bible, enjoying your first successful read through, and then making it a habit and continuing it for the rest of your life. I guarantee you, it will make you beefy.